Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the 10 tests of success. So I'll just be brutally honest. Success is not meant for everyone. Not everyone can be successful. But it's not because they don't have the capability of being successful. It's just that they won't do what it takes to endure through the challenges and the tests to be successful. And let's be very clear, the term success is very subjective. Because what this person's definition of success is may not be this person's definition of success, and vice versa. If your definition of success is waking up every morning with a beautiful wife and happy kids, then you may not need to pass these tests. If your goal is peace, stability, and comfort, then this path just might not be for you, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're chasing something bigger, something that demands greatness or something that forces you to rise or something that leaves a mark, then these tests are unavoidable. Because success at the highest level it's not handed out, it's earned. And you earn it by passing tests along the way. And the first test is you're gonna have to learn to start without having all the information, or learn to start before you're ready to start. Or before you feel ready to start. Most people fail before they even begin, not because they don't have the potential, not because they don't have the capability, but simply because they never take the first step. They hesitate. They think they have to have all the information before they can start. They think they have to have a certain amount of money before they can start. They think they need to have a certain amount of knowledge before they start. They think they need to have the latest and greatest computer or phone before they can start. There have been people that have built billion-dollar companies off writing it on a cocktail napkin. So you can't say that you need the brand new iPhone or a brand new computer or whatever before you can get started. You're just hesitating, and you're going to continue hesitating for the rest of your life. You're not going to do anything about it, and you're going to look back with massive regret that you never took the chance. You're never going to feel ready, ever. And that's what we do. We try to consume all this knowledge to get that feeling that we think is going to come to then start. Everybody is looking for a feeling of being ready. And I mentioned this in another video, but the feeling never comes. You're never going to feel ready. You have to take what you have right now, take the knowledge that you have right now, and just take the first step. Just the first step. And you've eliminated a lot of the competition already by just taking the first step, because most people won't. Most people are still consuming information, waiting to feel ready. And you're just going. And you hear the story all the time that people that are less capable than you, with less opportunity than you, and they're further out ahead of you just because they got started. And that's all that it takes. The most successful people in the world, they didn't have all the plans whenever they started. They just started. And remember this, success doesn't go to the person that plans the most. Success goes to the person that takes action. The second test you have to pass on the way to success is the test of fear. This is a big one. Most people are afraid. Most people are afraid of rejection. Most people are afraid of not being liked. Those are the two that bothered me the most. Most people are afraid of failure. None of that is going to harm you. We blow it up in our mind so big that it paralyzes us and we don't move. The fact of the matter is, the moment that you step out of your comfort zone, fear is going to overtake you. And the secret is to walk through it while you're scared. Because in doing so, the fear is going to go away. But most people never realize that because they let it stop them. They let it paralyze them, not realizing if they just kept walking, they're going to get through it and everything's going to be fine, and it's not going to hurt as bad as you've created in your mind. And that's the problem. People surrender to it and they let it control every decision that they make. And you'll never know that capability until you do something scared and realize, oh, it's not that bad. Yeah, it's not that bad. Keep going. You're going to be fine. Everything that you want exists on the other side of fear. If you want to be a multimillionaire, it's on the other side of fear. If you want a loving, amazing relationship with a spouse, it's on the other side of fear. The treasure that you seek is in the cave that you're scared to go into. Bottom line, the question is, it's not if you're going to feel fear, because you will 100%. But the question is, are you going to let the fear stop you? Because you have thus far. And you don't have to continue. You're stronger than you think you are. Do it scared. Do it with your knees shaking. Do it with your voice cracking and your hands clammy. You're going to be fine. And you're going to be better off once you do it. Time's passing. Just start now. Do it scared now. Number 3 test that you have to pass on the way to success is the ownership test. This is the one I like to call taking responsibility. You are where you are based off the decisions that you've made. For some people, that's going to be difficult to hear, difficult to understand, but you are exactly where you are based off of the decisions that you made. Your life is your responsibility. It's no one else's. If you want to be successful, you're going to have to get yourself there. Nobody's going to get you there. It's easy to say, I wasn't born in the right family. I don't have connections. The algorithms are against me. But the truth is, the most successful people take full ownership of their success. They take full ownership of their life. They own their failures. They own their mistakes. They own the decisions that they've made, right or wrong. And they learn from the wrong ones and they move forward. But everything is on them. They don't look around to put the blame on anyone else. All of the blame rests on their shoulders. And the moment that you stop looking around for somebody to blame and you start blaming the person in the mirror, your entire life's going to shift. And if you don't pass that test, then you're never going to go anywhere because you're constantly going to be waiting for someone else to come along and change your life or make the decision for you or put you in a better position. It's up to you, nobody else. Test number 4 that you're going to go through, and this ends a lot of journeys, is the rejection test. Not everyone's going to support you. A lot of people are going to doubt you. Some of them will criticize you, and others, they won't even acknowledge your existence. And it's all part of it, and you're always going to be okay. You don't need any of it. You don't need anyone's support. It makes life easier, but you don't need it. If you need the constant validation from other people, then you're never going to make it because you're never going to get it. Me personally, like my biggest love language is words of affirmation. And so throughout my entire life, I've always desired and wanted words of affirmation in whatever I was doing. But when I got on a different journey and on this path to success and the path to my dream life, I understood really quickly, you ain't gonna get it. You have to pat yourself on the back. Not everybody's gonna like you. That's just part of it. You can be doing the greatest things in life and people are still going to talk shit about you. That's just the nature of humanity. So you can't always look for words of affirmation. You can't always look for people to support you and to lift you up. You have to do that yourself. And you got to understand that pretty much every successful person that you've ever read about or every successful person whose name you know has dealt with massive rejection. So we can start with J.K. Rowling. Whenever she was making the Harry Potter books, she was turned down by 12 different publishers. Massive rejection, 12 times. Most of you can't take one rejection. I used to not be able to take one rejection. It would ruin my whole day. Now it's just part of life. And so that's going to lead us right into the next test that you have to pass, which is the loneliness test. Success can be lonely. There's going to be days when nobody understands what you're doing, when nobody gets it. Nobody can see the vision that you have in your head. You're all alone. Nobody knows how to help you. Nobody knows how to encourage you. And it's just you by yourself working on a plan and a vision that only you can see. Most people can't pass this test because, again, they need constant validation. They need constant support. It goes right back to the fear of rejection. They need constant support and they're not going to get it. It's lonely sometimes. But if you're chasing something great, then you're going to have to be okay with being alone sometimes. The right people will come, but first you're going to have to pass the loneliness test and prove that you're okay being alone. And ironically, that's when everybody comes and your support comes, once you've passed the loneliness test. Moving on. The next test that you have to pass is the discipline test. Oh, this is a tough one for a lot of people. The discipline test. You see, motivation doesn't last. Motivation is, I think Winston Churchill said it. Motivation is like bathing. You need it at least once a day and it never lasts. Something like that. I probably butchered that quote, but you get the idea. Motivation doesn't last. And if you only work when you feel like working, you're never going to make it because you're never going to feel like working all the time. because it comes to a point when the motivation is no longer there, but that's where you have to have developed discipline to continue going and doing what you know you need to do, regardless of the rewards not showing up. Because it's very difficult to continue doing something and putting your effort and your time into it and seeing no result from it. And that's where discipline shows up. You got to show up when you're tired. You got to show up when you don't feel like it. You got to do the work. That's the only way to get there. And most people will never get to success because they get to this part and they don't like doing things that are difficult. They don't like doing things that they don't feel like doing. But if you're chasing something, if you're chasing greatness, if you're chasing grand ambitions, then discipline has to be paramount in your life. You have got to adopt discipline in your life because that's the only way you're going to get there. Number 7, we talked about this in the previous video, one of the previous videos, which you got to pass, is the boredom test. Now, this one kind of ties in with discipline because when you're doing the same over and over and over, you're going to get bored. You're going to get tired of doing it. It's going to lose its fun. It's going to lose its excitement. And most people quit because they think they're doing something wrong or they just can't stand being bored anymore. They can't stand doing the same thing. The fact of the matter is, on the path to success, you got to have discipline and you got to have consistency. And discipline and consistency are there to help you overcome boredom, because the boredom is going to come. Doing the same over and over and seeing no results from it, it gets boring. You get tired of doing it. You start asking yourself, what am I even doing this for? You got to pass the boredom test. Success is not exciting. Most people just see the fruits of success and they never see the path that it takes to get there. They never see the boredom that comes along. They never see the having to fight motivation with discipline every day. Most people just imagine big wins and breakthroughs and life-changing moments. But that's not reality, because success is repetition every day, repetition. And then later down the line, it all pays off. And people look at you like you were an overnight success, not realizing the boredom you had to deal with, the lack of motivation and doing the shit anyway you had to deal with, the consistency that you had to deal with. Most people don't see all that stuff. They just see the lights and the glitz and the glamour and the cars and the houses. But in order to get there, you got to pass the boredom test. You got to pass the discipline test. You got to be consistent. It's doing the same things over and over. It's waking up early. It's sticking to the habits that work. It's showing up and doing the thing over and over with no results yet. And this is where people quit, because they're doing something and they're not seeing the results from it, not understanding that it's a process. They expect every day to feel inspiring and amazing, and it's just not reality. They think that if something feels boring, then it must be wrong. And the truth is that the boring work is what actually separates the amateurs from the professionals. The professionals do the boring work over and over, and the amateurs refuse to be bored. And so, therefore, most people don't make it because they get bored with consistency. They want new, they want fast, they want instant excitement. But success doesn't belong to people who are constantly chasing the new shiny object. It belongs to the people who can master the mundane, who can do the thing that's boring as though it's enjoyable. So you need to ask yourself, can you handle the boredom of success? Now we'll talk about test number 8, which is the patience test. Man, let's say you have done everything right. You started before you were ready. You overcame your biggest fears. You took ownership and responsibility for your life. You passed the rejection test. You passed the loneliness test. You were disciplined. You passed the boredom test. And you've been doing all that. And you've been diligent and consistent, doing the things you didn't feel like doing, overcoming your biggest fears. And now you get to the patience test and you quit, because the results haven't shown up yet. You know, this is where most people give up, because they've been doing everything for so long and nothing's happened, and so they just quit. But it's not because they weren't good enough, not because they weren't talented enough, not because they didn't know enough. It's just because they got tired of waiting. We live in a world that rewards fast. We got fast food, we got fast internet, we got fast shipping, we got fast results. And so most people can't stand to have to wait for anything. We've been programmed. And I think a lot of these little programs are intentional to keep us from understanding our true potential and what we're capable of. But that's a conversation for another time. The fact of the matter is, people have no patience for success. The one thing that's going to change their life, they ain't got no patience for. They want it overnight. They want this overnight success, this microwave success. They want the 6-figure business in 6 months. They want the body transformation in a couple weeks. It just doesn't work like that. We've talked about it many times before. You're going to do things, you're going to change the way that you think, change your beliefs and everything, and then there's a gap in everything that you do. And then the results come. But most people, again, they quit in the gap. And this gap is what we call patience. Because when people have been doing the right things for a long time and nothing's shown up yet, they think that they're doing the wrong thing. So they just quit. They assume it's not working. They assume that they're failing. Or they assume that success is supposed to come quicker than it does. But it will come. You just have to pass these tests. You just got to pass all the tests. The patience test is a big one because that's when people around you start talking, getting in your ear and like, are you sure this is for you? Maybe you should try to do something else. This is your path. I've told you before, if you have belief in yourself, you're doing something great, you have integrity as you're doing it, you're going to get there. You're going to get there. You just can't give up and you can't listen to other people. If you have this feeling in you that you should be doing something, then do it. Regardless of how long it takes and regardless of what you hear from other people, you're going to be okay. I get it. Real success, it takes time. It can get frustrating. It can get lonely. You start listening to people who once believed in you or your closest friends or family, your allies. They start doubting that it's going to happen. And so you start doubting it yourself and then you just quit. But again, the patience is just a test to see who can play, the long game, who's not looking for the instant results. Because in that gap, you learn so much about yourself. You learn patience, you learn grit, you learn perseverance that can only be learned in that gap by continuing to do what you know you need to do. That's the only way that you can learn those. And so you have to go through that to learn those things so that you can be prepared for when your success comes. Don't quit in the gap. Be patient. Most people quit right before the breakthrough. Right before something happens, they quit. They were so close, but they just walked away too soon. And the number 9 test that you need to pass on the way to success is called the adaptability test. You got to learn to adapt because no plan survives reality. And what I mean by that is you can plan all you want. You can have a perfect plan, but life is going to life. Things are going to happen. They're going to throw you off course. And how you adapt is what's going to ensure your failure or your success. And so it's important that you learn how to adapt. You learn how to operate stressed out, frustrated, impatient. Because in that moment, you got 2 options. You can complain about it and you just give up or blame the situation or, whatever. It's an easy out and a lot of people take it. And a lot of people, like, yeah, man, I get it. Shoot, I would have quit too. But then you have the other people who adapt. They adjust. They find another way to get to their ultimate goal. They don't let problems stop them. And they certainly don't go out looking for sympathy from friends or family because they quit. They keep going. They figure it out. They go another route. The truth is, you may have plenty of unsuccessful businesses before you find the one that pops off. And all it takes is one. And you're going to have the knowledge and the wisdom of all those failures to make this one really shine. The most frustrating thing is people have these dreams and then they have the courage to go and pursue them. And then they run into one of these tests and it's like, well, I guess it just wasn't meant to be. You had this dream in your heart. You went after it. You just quit. There's always another way. You just have to find it. You just have to figure it out. Don't quit. It is for you. It's for everybody. If you have a dream that's been placed in your heart and you have the courage to pursue it, you have to keep going regardless of what happens. If it ain't in that business, then it's in a different business. But don't stop. Don't just go back. Like, that dream was placed in your heart for a reason. You need to pursue it. So you got to be willing to change. You got to be willing to adjust, to learn something new or to start something new. Because if not, then you're just going to be like everyone else, stuck, frustrated, unhappy, and wondering why things haven't worked out. It's because you quit when you could have kept going. There's always a way. Number 10, the hardest of them all. Right next to patience, the hardest of them all is what's called the breakthrough test. And it's the hardest of them all because this is what makes or breaks everything. This is the moment that you've literally given everything you have. Now you're exhausted. Now you're doubting yourself. You've worked, you sacrificed, you stayed disciplined, you overcame your fears, you remained patient, and still nothing. This is a pivotal moment in your journey. And this is where most people quit. But not because they weren't capable, not because they weren't close, but because they gave up right before they won. And this one comes after the patience. It's an extension of the test of patience. So there's a story from the book Think and Grow Rich called 3 Feet from Gold. And it's about a man named R.U. Darby and his uncle that struck gold. So they bought mining equipment and they struck a gold vein. And so they pulled out all the gold and then the vein went empty. And they kept digging and nothing happened. So they just gave up. They sold their equipment to a junk man, and the junk man hired an engineer. And so the engineer studied the land that the Darbys were on and found that where they quit, gold was 3 feet further. A new gold vein was 3 feet further. So the junk man dug 3 feet further and found one of the biggest gold veins in history. And the lesson here is what I'm telling you. Most people quit when they're 3 feet from gold. Most people quit right before their breakthrough. They stop when things get hard. They quit when things get frustrating. But what if you're 3 feet from gold? What if your success is right there, but you gave up too soon? What if everything that you've worked for, every hour you've put in, and every sacrifice that you've made is right on the other side of this moment? And most people will never know because they quit. 100 people will start on the path to success. They decide to chase their dreams and they get started. Most people are going to fail when they come up against one of these tests. Fear will stop them, rejection will break them, boredom will make them quit, or impatience will make them walk away too soon. But the ones who pass, they succeed. They change their lives. And most importantly, they give hope to those around them to change their own lives. They show their peers what's possible. They reach that other side. So the real question is not, can you pass these tests? Because I know you can. We're all capable. So it's not can you, it's will you. Because it's completely up to you. Notice the tests when they show up. Notice what they are. Notice what they're trying to teach you. And pass the test. Because at the end of the day, success is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And that says something. And the ones who make it, they're the ones that refuse to quit.